The way you vote in North Carolina elections could change. This is a live look at the legislative building where lawmakers discussed major reforms to the state's election laws. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gerald Owens.
And I'm Deborah Morgan. If the bill passes, any mail-in votes not received by election night would be tossed out. Right now, there is a 3-day grace period. The bill would also change the rules for same-day voter registration. WRAL's Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie is live at the legislative building where they heard the bill today. Laura.
Gerald and Deborah, Republican state lawmakers say the proposals will increase election security and integrity, and they say that's necessary to restore public confidence in elections. But opponents say state elections are already very secure. They say the changes are meant to discourage or disqualify voters who might vote for a Democrat.
The proposal makes more than a dozen changes to state election law, including throwing out any ballot that arrives after Election Day, even if it was postmarked by Election Day. Senator Warren Daniel is the bill's sponsor.
I think it has been aptly described as the jumbo jet of election integrity.
It would also require signature matching for mail-in ballots in addition to 2 witnesses and make it harder to use same-day registration during early voting. Andy Jackson with the Locke Foundation applauded the bill.
This is going to make a host of improvements and changes to election administration that'll make our elections more secure.
The bill makes it easier for any voter to challenge multiple people's ballots, and it would ban election boards from receiving funding from nonprofits. Melissa Price-Crom with NC Voters for Clean Elections said that will leave boards without enough resources to run elections because they're not getting enough money from state lawmakers.
When election deniers use the term election integrity, it's just a way to rationalize efforts to further suppress voters who use legal and viable voting options.
Outside the legislature, voting rights activists like Cassandra Stokes rallied against the changes, saying they'll disproportionately lead to the rejection of votes from communities of color, as well as elderly, rural, and disabled voters.
A record number of black and brown voters cast mail-in ballots in 2020, and NC politicians are now making it more difficult to cast ballots.
Now, according to the State Elections Board, more than 11,600 ballots were arrived and were counted in those are mail-in ballots in the 3 days after the 2020 election. Those would be thrown out under this bill. But GOP sponsors say that voters will mail their ballots earlier if they move the deadline back to Election Day. The bill will get its first vote in committee tomorrow. Deb?
Laura Leslie reporting live in Raleigh. Thank you, Laura.